Walk with me through the cellar door. A storm is coming, Francis. A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Welcome to the Blank Screen Show. That's how it works around here. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We are joined by all of the co-hosts for the show.
Yeah. And everybody just scanned your fingerprint when you stuck it up on that Apple camera.
Oh man,
and
it's
now
not an Apple camera, but
now they're gonna buy stuff on smile.amazon and make a donation to your favorite charity.
yeah. Well, look, there could be two of me if you want. We have one here.
Now, you have fully evolved into a complete neckbeard.
Great. Oh, great. Thanks,
I
Jamie
did not
Kennedy.
Shave anything at all, Hannah, in fairness. So, after I shaved and put everything back to zero, I have not shaved at all.
Well, I did think that it's pretty thoroughly impressive. That's like 1 week worth of facial hair growth that you've got going there, which, I mean, hell, that's faster than my lawn. That's insane.
That's nuts, dude. Just nuts.
Well, it's kind of funny because I did that, right? And then we had so my company's been more in on the how do we get your face on Zoom type thing, right? That's like a big thing.
Your face on what?
Zoom meetings.
Oh.
So they want us to show our pretty face, and I think some of it's just because they want us to like actually get up and get dressed in the morning. But I just wear my hat still. I just wear my hat, and like 80% of the time I'm just sitting in my gym shorts, or if it's cold, like today was cold, so I had my sleeping pajama pants on and my t-shirt. I don't put a dress shirt on. The owner of the company is in a 3-piece suit, like on the camera. And so now tomorrow I have to do an interview and for another position in our company. And by doing the interview, I don't know if I'm supposed to get up early and dress up or not.
I'm just going to tell you now. Yes.
Because it's with the owner and the COO of the company. So I probably should, but I don't know. It depends if they make me join with my camera or not.
We would like you to use the wide angle lens that we sent you. We want to see how well you've been keeping up your house, keeping your clothes clean. Is there any disgusting paperwork everywhere? I don't know. Depends on, how strenuous they're going to get.
Well, the funny thing too, with that is actually, in fairness, they did buy me a webcam 4 years ago. I don't use it for the show right now. I actually donated it to my sister, but I do have a webcam they did buy me.
And they're turning it on. And they're like, who is this woman?
No, it doesn't work like that. My boss...
You think?
My boss actually asked me halfway through the quarantine, he's like, can I buy you a fancy webcam? How come we never see you? And doesn't your MacBook have a camera on it? And I was like...
And I Googled your name, and apparently you do video shows every week.
Well, and the other thing...
And you talk about our company. What the hell, man?
The other funny thing he said, too, he goes, because I got you that camera like 4 years ago, right? And he's like, I'm not saying I expect you to use it, but it just seems rather odd. You have a camera, but you don't get up and use it. And I was like, well, because I don't feel like getting dress curts. So if you want, half the time I'm running to a meeting, I might be in my underwear and a t-shirt. So as long as you don't care. And he's like, all right, I'm done. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
You do the meeting on your back, holding your phone in the air in your bed.
No.
Hi, guys.
I'm sure I would be, I'm sure I might be fired for that one. I don't know, though, because the owner, it was funny. One of the owners, we were doing, it was later in the day, and all of a sudden, like, you could see this glass of wine just at the corner. Like, you can't see that it's wine, but you could just see it. And it's like 2:00. You can just see it sitting there. And it's because he accidentally bumped his back just a tiny bit, and he was in his kitchen. So he's taking this call in his kitchen, at his little like sit down bar stool, bar with a stool. And, like you can just see it in the corner that he's already got his glass of wine out for the day.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Hey,
That's
whatever floats your boat.
That's pandemic, man. That's what we gotta do. We gotta do something to take the edge off the quarantine.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I haven't stopped.
Oh god, yeah, no kidding. Sorry. Part of the reason why I've been quiet, other than my internet cutting out for a minute there, I just found out that Tanner's dying of tuberculosis.
Yeah, he has
and...
COVID. God damn it.
No. Uh-oh. Is it too soon to joke about that yet? I hope not. No. Do you guys know who Bryan Adams is, the musician?
Yes.
Yeah.
1969 guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's a racist now. He tweeted out this morning. Tonight was supposed to be the beginning of tenancy of gigs at the Royal Albert Hall, but thanks to some, and this is where we're going to explicit tag the show now, fucking bat-eating, wet market animals selling, virus-making greedy bastards, the whole world is now on hold. Oh, it gets worse. Because not only... The racism doesn't get worse because now he's trying to mask it by doing the whole morally superior. My message to them, other than thanks a fucking lot, is go vegan. So not only is he a racist, he's embodying the very worst of vegans. So if anybody else is looking for another reason to not listen to the horrific musician that is known as Bryan Adams, here you go now.
Who's still listening to
Bryan
Bryan
by
Adams?
the way... I don't know, but for some reason, people still romanticize that song "Run to You." And if you listen to the lyrics, he's literally talking about his mistress and how his wife doesn't make him happy. So, maybe think about who you're listening to for your music. Just saying.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Hold on though. There is a video, dude. Like it's from Instagram, actually.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I haven't watched that. I saw the tweet.
He didn't just type this. He actually said it.
We don't know.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna find out in a second.
Oh, no.
Oh boy.
Well, we got an explicit tag on. Why not, right? Just turn on the gutter. Oh god.
Driving home this evening, I could have sworn we had it all worked out.
Man, he's old.
Yeah.
You had this boy believing, way beyond the shadow of a doubt. Then I heard it on the street. I heard you might have found somebody new.
I don't get it.
Baby? Who is he and tell me what he means to you?
It's not even like, and we didn't derail the show.
Get off for granted, but how was I to know?
Now we're watching this really shitty musician. I'm sorry. I really don't like him as a musician. But
No.
Well, okay.
That's enough of that.
So that's not a new song, is it?
No, that's one of his much older songs. I have no idea when the hell that one first came out. But
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but
yeah.
I mean, he's just like he could have just been. It's like
he's throwing a tantrum because he doesn't get to do a concert to make money.
I mean, he could have very easily have just said like
racism.
Because of this horrible situation where thousands of people have now died. This is terrible and it's unfortunate and I can't come out. Instead, he went that way. Oh, speaking of that way, I was in...
Isn't there a song by Newsboys called that? Sorry.
I have no idea.
Anyway, keep moving on.
I don't know. If it wasn't on God's Not Dead, I haven't heard any other Newsboys songs.
Either way, I have no clue what any of that stuff is. The only thing I've ever seen in the real world.
Hold on.
That
You don't
dude's
know who
level.
Newsboys are?
I remember when we had the big story that
remember
broke
we had
out.
George on?
I didn't listen to any of that crap. Either way, the only thing I know about Bryan Adams in the real world is that he was either on my honeymoon. I think it was a honeymoon in Jamaica. He owns this used to own or still does own this crazy mega compound right on the ocean and his ridiculous wealth. So woohoo! Screw that guy. I don't care.
Fair enough. Moving on.
Yeah. So yeah, he's terrible. And if anybody needed any more reason to not like him, there you go.
So, and the funny thing is, so I did that a little on purpose. I didn't know the video was not him doing the rant. Otherwise, I wouldn't have played this song because we'll probably just get like YouTube hit for that one.
No, because this is free use. So it's from his public Instagram, so it should be legal for us to use that because it's his.
Well,
It's
that's
public domain. Public domain.
And we were talking all over it, so that should help.
probably a little bit, yeah. But anyway, it's one of those things where I would not have played it honestly to give him any more views. I thought he was gonna go on the actual rant, and I actually just wanted to hear him say it because it's like you could type anything, but when you say it, and then it's gonna be on our video for record. So when tomorrow he wakes up sober and he goes, "This was a bad idea," he's gonna delete it, and we'll have video proof that it exists. We can't edit that, folks. I don't think you can edit it. Like, you'd have to spend a lot of time. And we don't get paid enough doing this show to do that.
Yeah, he would basically
Yeah.
have to take it down and put it back up.
Fair enough. So, the next topic
yeah,
I
so
kind of wanted to
Canada
talk a
can be
little bit
embarrassing
about.
too.
It can be. I don't want notifications from this website. But so can Ohio. And it's kind of funny because I'm originally from Ohio.
And I'm
And
in
Hannah
there right
now
now.
lives in Ohio. And this, I think
Smells
this
weird.
is important because there was a discussion I had on Facebook. And so if any of you follow my Facebook feed, and if you don't, you should, because sometimes it's extremely entertaining with a lot of the right-wing conservatives that feel the need to jump in. But you can go on and look at this. I had a meme basically that said the difference between what's happening in Michigan and who's trying to recall the governor versus what's happening in Ohio is sexism. Because essentially, nobody's going after the governor in Ohio. They're going after the health director, who's a woman. And so is Gretchen, the governor of Michigan. And they're going after her. So, somebody basically says, well, it's bad policies, blah, 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 blah. But here's a perfect article. And the reason I brought this up is because the actual governor supports the health director.
Yeah, doesn't matter. It's a dude. The other thing, so like the governor is Republican and male, and so the gun-toting
What's his
gun-toting
name?
hootie tooties, DeWine,
There you go.
Mike
Sorry.
DeWine, but gun-toting hootie tooties go stand on the boardwalk and measure each other. Those guys aren't going to go out there and like protest the guy that's in charge of their state, who's also part of their favorite party. And so they're going to go after someone who she is under the Republican administration, but she's not a elected Republican official. And so it's easier for them to, use their cognitive bias to directly attack that. And it's a woman. That's that's a big thing for it, but they're essentially distancing themselves from the Republican Party by attacking her because she is an appointed position as opposed to someone who's actually been elected. And I don't know. This whole state has gone bananas over this because they recently just did the legislative that they went and attacked that she couldn't set any kind of rules that would be just long term. So like one of the reasons why our vote went weird is because the health director said that she was going to close down the polls because it was too dangerous medically speaking. And so they shut down the polls, and a lot of the Republicans didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep them open, just like Wyoming or Wisconsin did. And so they said, well, she has more power than the legislature, they recently just convened and they passed a restriction against her so that any decree that the health director makes cannot be longer than 14 days or something like that, unless it's backed up by actual legislation. So like you have a 2-week time period where, the health director can make a major decision if necessary, but it doesn't last any longer than that unless there's a law made to support it, which I don't really have a problem with. I think that's fine. I don't think any one person should have that much power, but it's interesting that they're restricting and confining the female state health director as opposed to telling the governor to stop doing all of these things. It smells a little stinky, and it's a weird thing that the Republicans do when they love their party, but they continue to attack the women who are rising in their party. But we all, I mean, everyone here kind of has suspicions as to whether or not the Republican Party actually thinks women are equals.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny, and the only reason I wanted to bring it up, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it, is honestly just for that one pure fact that you have a it's a GOP governor, very conservative guy. I mean, he is not like even a centrist, really.
Oh yeah, he replaced who was the guy that ran for governor? Kasich. That guy was a centrist.
Yeah. So this guy's more conservative than Kasich, and I don't even like Kasich that much.
Yeah.
And with this guy being more conservative, he elected this lady and put her on his health team. And if we look at the media and we say, oh, what has Trump done lately? Trump can just get rid of these people, right? So this dude could do the same thing. If he wanted to get rid of her, he could, and nobody would bat two eyes.
No, she's actually been relatively popular because Ohio has actually had some really good numbers as far as the entirety. So like they have a hard time finding and justifying the case, but you know they love to say, hey, we got low numbers, let's open the whole thing up and fix that. But I don't know what's gonna. Did you just take a picture with a droid?
No, with an iPhone.
I know.
Oh, with my R2D2 droid. Yeah, that's my case.
Yeah, I never see that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I get a lot of comments on it, actually.
The one thing I want that case that has a Game Boy on the back, but I just haven't pulled the trigger on that.
Yeah, I don't have that, and I've never had that, but I'll be honest with you, I probably would get a lot less work done. I would be on Facebook almost not at all. Like, it's probably like
That's
not
true.
even a
Is that the
thing.
scientific term? Almost not at all.
Almost not at all. Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. 115%, because that's what I give it. Oh, foutoir, Hannah. Foutoir. Anyway, so I thought it was interesting, and I think the big thing, that comes out of that is the fact that we have all of these people trying to decry what women are doing during this pandemic. And here you go, you have an example, positive examples, and you have pure ability to understand and see how the GOP and how fucking conservatives, there you go, I guess we already had explicit tag, are basically fucking sexist the majority of the time, period.
Their party has a major problem with it.
But they love women. They want to protect women. That's why they do it.
About as much as they like to protect Nazis.
Oh,
that
That's
was
true.
sarcasm,
They do
but-
try and protect Nazis quite a bit. So that kind of leads me, I found this article, and I was going to do this for a quick save, and then I was like, nope, let's have a quick conversation, because even amongst our group,
I love that.
This is a little contentious. What do you love?
That lead sentence makes me happy.
Oh,
It's hard to get a
hard to get a
job.
job.
It's hard to make a living. It's hard to have a normal life when all your friends and family know you believe in ethnic cleansing. It's just...
Like, don't get me wrong. I struggle with the whole idea of getting fired for your ideology, but if you're a racist to this extent that you identify your friends as, I don't know, white nationalists, white supremacists, or what's the proper term for that? Oh yeah, fucking Nazis.
Oh,
Damn.
yeah.
If those are your friends, if some of
Potato,
your best friend are
potato.
them. I have no sympathy for you not being able to find a job, because you're already a hateful son of a bitch, and you're not going to go, like, no black person is going to want to hire you, because they're going to be like, yeah, no, this person doesn't think that I'm a human. They can't trust your judgment to actually not only put the company's best interests first, but to treat your coworkers like equals or human beings. So,
Well, that
in this case, I really have no qualm about docs like making it so they can't get jobs. Like, I'm sorry, you don't deserve to be part of the regular force if you don't see the people around you as your equals, as your fellow human beings.
well, first off, if we really have to consider the fact that people are taking their torches to Nazi rallies from Home Depot. They're tiki torches. They fill up that mosquito repellent so you guys can stay safe from the Zika or whatever the heck it is.
You got to do that while you're marching, telling people we should kill anybody that's not white.
While chanting, the Jews will not replace us.
Yeah.
That's
No, it's a quiet genocide that makes it
Yeah.
wait.
that's
They
that's
said
the
it
thing.
nicely. Come on.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, just because you said something nice doesn't mean it deserves a nice response. If you politely, if you say, "Please, can we quietly genocide people?" The response should not be, "Oh, no." It should be, "Hey, here's prison. You're going to spend the rest of your life there now. Bye bye. You do not get to
Curb.
be a part of society."
You get a Patrick Bateman moment. It's like point at the curb. Don't just sit there. Eat it.
Oh,
All right, so moving past that. So the reason I thought this was more than worthy of more of a discussion than just a quick save is because of the
Splashing.
fact that we've had this conversation on the show for at least 3 years now. Usually, I'm the aggressive, punch Nazis in the face, pretty aggressive guy. So like here is another example of where doxing's working, right? Like and so fine, maybe
It used
punching
to.
Nazis in the face isn't working, but is doxing making them terrified? And if it makes them scared to change jobs, to get other sides, other go out into public in other areas, again, let's take one step back and say, fine, I'm going to remove violence from this and just say, how do we make their lives harder to happen inside of America? And here and here's the deal. And then this is, if American X taught us anything, is that you can be reformed 100% from what you used to believe. And I'll tell you what, if I had a guy walk in and say, hey, in an interview and said, hey, the first thing you're probably going to do when you get done talking to me is look me up. By the way, I'm wearing long sleeves because I have a Nazi tattoo I don't have the money to take off. But here's the deal. Let me explain to you what I've done. And then get into an interview. Will I judge him a little? Yeah, probably. Will it be very hard for me to hire him if there's other qualified candidates? Yes, 100%. But at the exact same time, if he ends up being the, or she, well, it's he, the main candidate, if they're reformed, I would probably hire them on a probationary period, but I'm going to treat them worse than I'm going to treat a felon that went and robbed a bank, right? Like, I mean, that guy went and did his time. He got out. He confessed. He has the record for it. These people don't have that. And so the difference is that if we're going to dox these people, we're going to take them, take this to the streets and say, okay, hold on. How do we get others to understand that? And if they reform, we do have to be a little bit sympathetic to some aspects if they're truly going to be reformed. But we should also not tolerate that type of, attitude in the workplace. So, if the guy walks in, you're like, hey, I'll hire you, 30-day probation. Boom, something happens, you're done and over. You're not going to get unemployment, nothing. You're just done.
Well, this is the way our society used to work. I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, I would say like the last 30-ish years or so, we saw a nationwide suppression of white supremacy and those kinds of groups. We did. We didn't have the internet, so to speak. That was. I mean, it's been around for about 30-ish years now, but like the internet wasn't like this really strong thing that it used to be. So maybe let's make it 40 years. And what we had is like in small towns and something like that, the city would be like, did you hear about whatever X person? They were called out, they were at a rally or something like that. Like the society used to see that as like a thing, and normalizing it the way it has been in the last decade or so, as the conservative right wing, the aggressively conservative end of that has been kind of normalizing itself and working at it, and they've succeeded with their some of their websites and some of that stuff that's managed to get some of their perspectives and thoughts into power. I mean, look at Stephen Miller and some of his tendencies and some of the stuff that he does. So like, we used to shame these people, and now some of them are in positions of power, and they're not outright saying the things they believe, but everything they do espouses those kinds of beliefs. And so by association, these people who are in these groups think they've been validated, and so they're coming out of the woodwork now. And it's nice to see this. Some parts of society is still saying, hey, you know what, you can do that. That's your free speech. your First Amendment, free speech. But we're going to tell everyone that you said it. And we're going to take a picture of you while you're doing it. And we're going to tell your Nana. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it is. Like, that's fine. If you believe that, you really do. You want to throw yourself out there and you can be completely and totally transparent. You don't get to do that on the weekends and go do a march downtown on Main Street and then just disappear. Like, we used to be able to do that because the internet wasn't so pervasive. But in some cases, even that was shamed enough. So it's nice to see that this is still somewhat
the irony to me is just that some of them call themselves the Proud Boys, and yet you see them like hiding their face. But it's like, I thought you were proud of what you are and who you are. Maybe you should wear it on your sleeve and get in the faces of everyone and make sure everybody knows
the deep
how
state.
proud you are of
the
what
deep
you
state
are.
is controlling everyone. Soros and Gates are going to microchip us.
But if the deep state has all this knowledge, don't they already know who you are? So isn't this just kind of pointless? Isn't this just like an exercise in futility?
Stop talking logic a second. It doesn't work for that.
That's what we were doing when we were talking about stuff earlier before the show started. We were talking about some of this, spam and garbage that's out there. It's just like, in the real world, in utopia, people would be presented with new information and they would change their mind. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to censor things and ban things. It could be a perfect information economy. But humans are not logical. I mean, this is one of the things that we've proven through behavioral economics. The guy that created it won a Nobel Prize for it.
Yep. And the last point for this is there's an author called John Ronson who actually has a sympathetic book about those who are receiving public shaming. And he even said that it's justified. So even the guy that's saying, okay, hold on, maybe we should be sympathetic to these people.
I love
is
that
still
guy.
saying it's still justified, right? Because there's a difference between being a white power activist or a white supremacist and just being, and he says Justin Sacco, right? And, there's a huge, or Justine Sacco, and there's a huge difference, right? If you're, like you were saying, if you're out there actively protesting, come on, guess what?
Yeah.
You're on the outs. Sucks to be you, and if you want to sit behind VPN walls and all these other things so that people don't find out who you are, fine. I still think it's wrong. I still will go after you, but at the exact same time, at least you're not out in the streets demonstrating it, because we know what happens when we protest, right? Sometimes people take that as a sign. I mean, look at Michigan. For Christ's sake, we had armed activists saying we should reopen the economy, walk into the state house,
pose in front of the governor's door,
loaded guns, and when the governor goes, maybe we should ban assault rifles on state property, not from the state, just on state property,
Well,
I did really, my rights to carry an assault gun around my government.
Exactly. I did really enjoy seeing the Black Panthers carrying their weapons today. So, I mean, and if you're going to open it up to one, it's one of the things that we talked about when we talked about having prayer in before state legislature, when everybody was saying that we're going to do the what they didn't call it prayer. What did they call it? The invocations. We're going to do an invocation, and anyone can do it. So the Satanists in Florida were like, "We're going to do one," and everybody's like, "No," and they're like, "Oh no, you open it up for invocations. It can be for anyone. It's the same thing. If the white nationalists are going to march on the Capitol with their weapons and say that we want to open the economy and we think that we want to open the economy, we want to close the borders, and like, so the Black Panther can come out there and they can have their weapons and they can escort. There was a bunch of African American armed men that were escorting one of the state representatives to her office and everything. I mean, just like these are everybody gets to do it. If one group's doing it, everybody gets to do it. That's one of the things about this democratic country, is that if you open it up for one group, you open it up for all of them. So are you comfortable with all of the groups being able to wield weapons in the state house? If you're not, then nobody should. But these guys are going to say, well, we're responsible gun owners and we can't say, whatever, all those kinds of biases are going to come in. So like this is this is a great example of those people that are going to be on there. It's like, well, we should be able to go out and say this and we can do this and we shouldn't get doxxed or whatever for it. And it's just like, no, actually you should, but they would have no trouble doxing, let's say, some progressive who got caught doing something that was hypocritical or whatever. I just I love it when you mentioned Justine Sacco in the article here. I just wanted to say what she went on Twitter and posted about how white people can't get AIDS. It was a joke apparently, but like
sorry, did you say John Ronson?
Yes.
John.
Oh, okay. I love that guy. I read his psychopath test, and I didn't realize that it was him who was behind the movie Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the one who wrote the book. Yeah. Yeah, he's hang on, let's just look at the film adaptation there. Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't him. Never mind. That thought got all excited and then went nowhere. I apologize.
So he was or was not involved in it?
Oh, no, he was involved with it. Sorry, I didn't realize that they changed some of the names around for Men Who Stare at Goats. Ewan McGregor plays the character who's supposed to be John Ronson. That was my exciting thought.
Oh.
So, Obi-Wan played John Ronson. Hello there.
I just think that you shouldn't let Jedi shoot heroin and climb into toilets.
And now all I'm thinking about is John Ronson walking up to a goat and being like, hello there. Anyways, I'm just going to go back to drinking.
Fair enough. So, with that being said, one of the main topics I want to cover, and I know it's probably been debunked and all that, but what does our show do? Right? We have conversations, we debunk things. This was one I didn't want to let go. And I'm going to tell a story real quick behind the reason why it was brought up. So last week or 2 weeks ago, this video called Spamdemic came out on Facebook.
The first installment.
Yep.
Yeah. It's technically a trailer.
Yeah, technically it's a
26-minute trailer.
20-minute trailer, but And so what happened is because this came out, I had some friends share it, a lot of friends, and everybody was complaining that it keeps getting deleted. Now, one of my friends, his wife is an anti-vaxxer, and I've known them for a long time. And usually it's just a conversation we don't have almost ever. And she never touches my vaccination posts, and very rarely do I go after her anti-vax. Very rarely, once in a while I do. But for the most part, I don't touch them, because it's like, why? I mean, she's catering to a crowd. No reason for me to make a big deal about it. I don't have that much time on Facebook anyway. But her husband, who I've known since right after high school, essentially posted this, hey, this looked interesting.
Everybody did it. Everybody said the same dumb thing.
And I was like, no, I don't think it does. And he's like, I don't think you would have liked it. And I was like, well, I have some debunking information for this if you'd like. And no response, just cricket. And I wish I had a cricket button right now. I could just hit this button that had crickets playing.
If I could make the sound, yeah. If I could do it would sound like coos of a dove because I can't creak like that. But what's the guy from Police Academy? We gotta call that guy Michael something, I think. The man of like 1,000 sounds, whatever that dude is awesome. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, my parents did the same thing. They're like, "Hey, check this out. This is interesting," and I was just like, "Argh." So I had the necessary 27-minute drive home phone call where I called and was like, "Yeah, no," and then I as soon as I got home, I sent the multitude of links that I have included in the document that I received. Or that I saved from the best Forbes debunking I have ever seen. It's usually not a place where I go to see really good pro medical, pro science information. Forbes is kind of like hands off, don't touch the capitalists and the big pharma. But this one was really, really well done, and it was necessary, and I was happy, very happy. So I that's included in the information as well. But I sent that to my parents, and I kind of quelled that animal really quickly, and it felt nice to be like, hey, this is interesting. No, it's not. It's kind of dangerous. You need to know why it's dangerous. And it was a nice back and forth. My father and I have disagreements over extraterrestrials and large structures all over Earth and things of that nature. But
alien guy.
Kind of. It's more like how could they have done it? You know what I mean? Like it's too difficult, too large, too perfectly aligned, and kind of like we couldn't do it now. It must be superior technology. The argument is, it's a pretty common one, but so these kinds of things, his immune system isn't quite as developed as far as dealing with information overload and something like this, which is loaded in fallacies that most people aren't really trained to recognize. And so, I mean, it's slick. It really, I was watching it and I felt dirty because I was like, oh, that's good. That's real good. It's just like, oh, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating when people on 4chan have money. I think that's the thing that I got back from that.
It's terrifying when people who have such bad ideas and have access to resources that allow them to spread those ideas. It's just frustrating as shit. Especially because that they're not doing it in good faith. They're doing it because they know they can. Like, really?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like it's like the no true Scotsman thing. I think they actually do genuinely believe the shit. It's just frustrating because, like, I don't know, watching people inside of a bubble is difficult. Like I can't without anything say that my ability to change my mind is above and beyond anybody else's. Like I am biased and like any other human is, and like I try to be good with it, but in all reality, like I am obviously riddled with issues as well. And so like to see someone in a bubble that is like, it's not even like, it's really easy to pop it. It's really easy, but they just like, they will not come out of it. That's frustrating. And it's hard to deal with sometimes, like that acts of anti-vaxxer stuff, and like see children as the recipients of that bad information. And that's why we all kind of, like we try not to be too aggressive and mean to people, because like we're really not trying to pick a fight. We're trying to protect small people who can't make decisions. Because that's, to me, whenever I see an anti-vaxxer, I don't see a person making bad decisions. I see a person making hurtful decisions for a small person.
They're overstepping their boundaries, and they're proclaiming their own ideology is more important than the public health or public good, essentially. Like I honestly, like once my wife and I started getting around to having kids, like I'm going to be very open about not letting them around kids whose parents are anti-vax and saying, look, I'm sorry, this is a public health risk. Like you are knowingly putting everybody else's kids at risk by following bad information, and just please do not come near me. Thanks. Bye. And just try not to be more of a dick than that. But because really at the end of the day, vaccines are a public health initiative. They're protecting it's not just about your child, it's about all the other children and all the other individuals that come around with. As I've said before, I have family members who are immunocompromised. I have a dad who is on immunosuppressants because he has rheumatoid arthritis so bad that it's literally in all his joints. My aunt had a double lung transplant and will be on immunosuppressants for the rest of her life. So for me, being as immunized to all the various diseases of the world as I can be is important because I'd like to be around my family. I not always like them, but I'd like to know that when I do decide to be around them, I'm not going to introduce them to some pathogen that they didn't need to be exposed to, because we had a way of dealing with it, because some little know-it-all decided that they're smarter than the entire medical community, that 3 hours on Google made them smarter than somebody who spent how many years in med school.
I didn't mean to laugh in the middle of your story there,
yes,
but I saw the screen that Tanner has since uploaded, and it says Plandemic. Sorry.
Oh, I guess it's a Canadian film.
well, wherever they loaded the video, and this is the funny thing about this whole thing right here, right? Is you can download it, right? And so we're gonna click on it. Oh,
Yeah,
the
their
video
live
doesn't
stream
exist.
source has since been removed,
Yeah,
which
so
is
the
fine. That
question
means they
is,
don't have it on a
why
server
in-
somewhere.
Why? Yeah, why in Guides Green Earth do they not have this on their own server? Like, I get. Okay, I get the logic in this. Okay,
I don't think they
But-
thought the backlash was going to be as big as it is. I really don't.
this lady's been on before and been debunked more than one time. I almost had Abby on, and then I saw her response to it, and I was like, no, it's just gonna be her like sitting there getting frustrated, cursing, because
Yeah.
they dealt with this lady way back in the day. But
Oh, did they?
yeah, this is not the first time this lady's been around.
Well, part of the entire so Keith hasn't seen this.
I actually downloaded the movie just so I wanted everybody to know I have a copy of it. I
Ew.
legally downloaded it in case this happened and we wanted to talk over it. I don't think we do want to talk over it, to be honest with you. It's
so
very stressful.
Yeah,
honestly. Like, it's very hard for me to watch this. And like the first time I watched it, I was relatively sober when I sent it to you all. The second time I watched it, I definitely was not. And I'm just sitting here like, I think I went through 3 glasses of scotch.
Jesus.
We'll just put it that way. In 30
So-
minutes, man. Think about that.
Yeah, it's so basically part of the issue is like what this in the document the information that I've included in the video below, we have so it started off with Forbes going through everything that this woman has basically done and all of it, why you shouldn't directly attack the people who are sharing this, but also throughout the source they talk about when she basically was arrested, and this video, what it does is it really does a very good job at making her seem like the victim, like she was attacked, like she was chased down, like she was grabbed by the police and like all this kind of stuff. Like she actually turned herself in. There's a lot of really, really important clarifications that are necessary in here. What this does is it takes artistic license in this article or in the video, and it does these things to very, very strong effect to people who simply cannot possibly search up all of these claims that they're making. Bang, 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 bang. And what they do very, very effectively, right at the beginning, what this entire trailer essentially is doing is giving this woman credibility and creating an expertise, an area of expertise around her, so that everything she says from that point on becomes an argument from authority. But she was it's a long story, but basically she was discredited and she was arrested for potentially stealing information from a company that she was working for and doing research for, and whether or not they fired her for a variety of reasons, and the paperwork and notes disappeared, and they own those notes obviously if she's hired. So like there's a whole bunch of really, really important things that like very specifically needed to be understood as to why this woman has not been effectively given any kind of authority. And when she was hired initially in this company before, she spent 5 years as a bartender out of the field. She left the field when she got married and had a child, and worked her way back in. And it's just one of those things that, like, her history, when you look into it and actually see the information that some of these links give, it gives way more credibility to the idea that she is kind of on a fringe or outside. And she's been confirmed as an anti-vaxxer, so that also makes her science a little bit suspicious. And so, like, it's one of those things that you can't be ready for unless you read some of this other information. But this documentary does a very, very good job of making her seem like an expert right out of the gate. And when you do that, it's what was the old, I think it was Socrates or Plato who had the eros and it's an argument essentially where you deal with the emotions and you deal with the background of something, and then at the end of it you give all of the information. But what they've done is they've concentrated so much on their first impression and the emotion of the argument that they effectively downplay the actual information argument, and they just say, "Hey, we're done. This is it." And so, like, usually when you complete your argument, you need to, put up or shut up, and they just don't do that. They say, "We're done making the argument that this woman is an authority," and then let her make basically whatever claims she wants.
Exactly. And I think do we even have to debunk this? I'm just kidding. Like that would be the end of the show, folks. We're done. We don't have to debunk it.
Okay, it's been a great night.
Thanks, everyone. But I think you're right. I think this article does lend credence to people that have to deal with this, and I think we can get into the video a little bit here, but I think one of the biggest things is we have people that have to spend time debunking this, and what. We're not heroes for debunking this, right? That's not what we are. It's the fact that we have to spend our time having these types of conversations. And
it's
kind of
really
funny.
easy to put trash out there. It takes way more time to fix it.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because a couple weeks ago, we talked about our old atheist days, right? And you brought up a video that, you're like, hey, I really like how this dude took this guy apart. This type of stuff is reminiscent, and this is probably why we don't harp or discuss atheism type topics all the time on the show anymore, is because it was a lot of work. I mean, I'll remember when I first came out, right? And this is going to date me, but I remember when I first came out, before we even did this show, my uncle and I used to have texts longer than this.
Huge. Yeah. Huge.
Yeah. Like this here would be one segment of a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All that. I bet I still have them, and I could probably post. I'm not going to because I don't want to out him. But that's still the same thing. Is like that's what this type of work is. And the worst part about it is like if you brought anything up science that like Christians that are anti-science, it was even worse because then you had to do your science research and your atheist research, back and forth. And you were
learning more. You were learning more in that time, cramming all that stuff to make that argument. And they were just like brush it off, be like, yeah, but I believe I have faith or whatever. But like you were learning a crap load. But like you're talking hours. I used to spend hours. I when we did the atheist analysis blog stuff, I did at least 20 to 30 hours a week on that. And so like, I mean, I had a 40 to 50 to 60 hour a week job. So like take that in there, that's 70, 80 hours a week that, you're
before
piling up
kids.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like it's impossible to sustain that kind of thing. So like a lot of people, there's the old, camels with hammers argument, like when you're, the lion, it was the camel, the lion, and the child. Like it's really watching people go through that. We've gone through that. Like we were the camel, the beast of burden. We were the lion screaming on the internet, and now we're the newborn child learning about the world and just kind of like interested in everything. And like watching people go through that cycle now, because we've kind of moved on and still see some of the YouTube atheist leaders, whatever that community has kind of turned into now. It's weird. I've distanced so far from it. It was so important for a while, but
funny how that works.
I don't know, but like seeing that people go through those same kinds of cycles is interesting. And I wish, that people would kind of learn a little bit more when they watch these videos and see them get debunked. But I just don't think that happens.
Yeah, that's fair.
If only hearing contradicting information might lead to further thought instead of digging deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the movie, right? So this article has a conversation. What's the movie? Well, this Spamdemic essentially interviews, and I'm not going to call her a scientist because I don't know if that's the correct term or not.
I don't even know if she has her like doctor status anymore. I don't even know if she still has that.
Yeah, and essentially she's been around as an anti-vaccine advocate, we'll call it, right? So she's an anti-vaxxer. And and essentially she feels Dr. Fasoni, his pharmaceutical company, has collusion and cover-ups. And it's this big conspiracy, right?
Of course.
And everybody loves that because everybody hates Big Pharma. And I'm not going to say that I wasn't part of that group way back in the day when I was trying to go, all natural and all that other, gibberish. But at the same time,
I still
we
don't
ha-
like them.
yeah, you're right. I don't like big pharma
Yeah.
per se, but they don't have the influence that people think they have. They
Yeah.
have more influence over our healthcare insurance than anything else. Really.
And our politicians, yeah.
Yeah, and the politicians. It's not the drugs they're creating per se. It's the influence they have over everyone else. And I think that's the important thing here, right? Is does her stuff fall into pseudoscience? Yes. Why? Why is it, and why is it so attractive? So, Hannah, we'll let you go on for a few minutes because you were the one that did the most research for it. Tell us a little bit about beginning research for this.
So basically what I did was reading that Forbes article you just showed was kind of the starting point, because I was like, I need a comprehensive list. And so I went on, I was like, I saw this one, then I saw another one, then I saw another one, and there are some people who are concentrating on one specific thing, and some people who are concentrating on another specific thing. My personal favorite is the Google Doc. This was created by a gentleman who's essentially this is what he does, and it's debunking Spamdemic, and he works his way through the entire video, all of the different arguments that are made. I mean, he has argument 15A, 15B, 15C, 16, 17A, 17B. I mean, it's really specific. He went through the video and broke it down. So that's the first place you need to go if you're looking for like real information. Judy Mikovits is the only medical expert, air quotations, who is a well-known anti-vaccine activist. And one of the things that they talk about immediately right out of the gate for anybody who's debunking this is, hey, she's got a book that just came out. Go figure, huh? And so like she's coming out of the woodwork, and this video is coming out of the woodwork. It's like kind of like these things are kind of planned, capitalistically speaking. And she's the argument, what I said the other day, or when I saw this the other day, is that she was basically making all of these arguments, that she was placed on gag orders and that she was arrested and all that kind of stuff. And so it wasn't specifically what she said. So like, this is the embellishment thing that she was talking about, is that she was never placed on a gag order, but she was prevented from destroying evidence of her misconduct. So like her notes and all of the stuff that she was working on, the reason she was arrested was because that all of her paperwork and everything disappeared. It says she was imprisoned according to the documentary, but she only spent 5 days in jail, and she stole stuff. Like she took things and as opposed to like her notes and everything like that. So on November 7th, a judge from Nevada court granted a request for a temporary restraining order against Mikovits to prohibit her from destroying, altering, disseminating, or using trade secrets and confidential information, essentially protecting the company that she was working for that had hired her to do information research. So like one of the things that we have is when you are a company dealing with intellectual property, you have the ability to own the information that is being done under your corporate umbrella. And she was doing something wrong, illegal, or bad, and she was fired or removed from that, and they told her, you can't tell people what you were doing, or you can't lie about it, essentially. And so they were basically trying to keep her under control to either stop her from disseminating important information that she had, and then also not to destroy her research and stuff. Like right out of the gate, you see this as if you're a person looking into this, seeing these actual legal filings and everything, you're going to think that this is not a trustworthy scientist. And so her argument is that, would they frame me? This is all because I was finding something new that was going to change the whole world, and they wanted to hide it. That's when the conspiracy thing comes in, and they talk about Dr. Anthony Fauci in the documentary, and how he and his buddy had a paper restricted and hidden and held back so that Fauci's buddy could get his paper out first, because he got patents, and obviously there's finances and tons of money involved when you get patents. So like, to me, the entirety of this and all of the arguments and a lot of the kind of stuff, like the conspiracy stuff, this is probably the most truthful thing that I think could potentially be in here, is that Fauci and his buddies who have been in the medical world, they were leaders in the medical world. there's it's like Stanford, Yale, Harvard, that kind of thing. Like everybody's kind of in like a little frat and they help each other out. And if you're not in the group, you're whatever. And so maybe she wasn't in the group and she got kind of steamrolled by some big movers and shakers, and they gobbled up all this good stuff and they got patent stuff. That wouldn't surprise me. That sounds like a capitalist being capitalistic. As far as like him trying to take control of viruses to reset the world and change things and be in control of stuff. Like when you get to the further end and the wider arguments that they make, a lot of times when it's like the planning a pandemic, the whole point of the name, we're getting a bit out there. They mention the Rothschilds at some point, and so I my ears perk up whenever I hear the Rothschilds as an argument for some kind of, this has got some deep roots deep into the deep state or whatever it is. Like, they're super rich and they're really powerful. Bill Gates is super rich and he's really powerful and he's showing up all over the place right now. New York and Governor Cuomo, it just said that the Gates Foundation is going to help them start working on the education system and stuff. So the conspiracy theorists immediately like, Gates is going to change the way we teach our kids. Like, all of these things, like, this video really it hits, like I said, it hits all the buttons and it hits them well. It hits them really, really well, and it's frustrating because I see it and I'm like, ooh, that's slick, that's smooth, that's clean, and it's just like that's going to convince a lot of people, and it hurts.
Well, it did, except for Facebook and all them kept taking it down, so a lot of people had their posts taking it down, which, in fairness, led to a larger conspiracy, and I don't know if I agree with doing that or not, only for the pure fact of what it did. I would have to do a lot more research on that type of study, like to understand when we
whether or not
what
just
happens.
Disappearing it makes it go away or not. Yeah, Keith and I were talking about it. It's like if all the people on the internet could just be like, hey, we debunked it, and we sent everybody all these links that we had, they would see them and be like, oh, I was totally wrong, you guys are right. I'm gonna stop sharing
that's the world that we want to live in.
I mean, we can work for that world, but I don't know if it'll ever actually get here.
Well, the thing is, though, is that like when it comes to things like the medical sciences, like it's getting to the point where you can't just going to be an expert in this field and in a couple of other fields. It's getting so super technical that you get super fixated on just like one minute detail. You develop your PhD and spend decades studying that one little detail just to become an expert in it. You're going to talk to people who have no idea the specificity involved, and they're going to look at you like you've got three heads as you're trying to explain things to them, because it's just super, super technical. So when you get things like this, and they can play off of the lack of understandings and the fact that everybody doesn't have that knowledge of the technical terms, or even the humility to go, oh, I don't know what that means, I should look that up before I continue on with this nonsense. It just really benefits from that lack of awareness, that lack of knowledge, and that requirement for expertise, because they're not experts. They're just experts in muddying the waters, in shrouding the truth. That's all this is. And it's not to say that, it can't come from a genuine place of concern, because it kind of feels like, somebody's playing a funny game with you, like we've all had people who are smarter than us that'll just sit there and they'll just mess with us all the time. Or they'll just find one weakness that we have and they'll just play off of that and just kind of use that as, a way of gaslighting us or something like that to kind of keep us down, type of thing. And it just, you kind of raise your heckles, because, you think that, maybe there's a chance that, somebody who has all this knowledge that you supposedly don't, knows better than you, is making these decisions for you, and you're just supposed to trust them. And that just kind of, it can create a sense of unease, and I can totally sympathize with that. I totally empathize with that, because I know that, you can't always trust somebody in a position of authority, cough, cough, look at your president, cough, to be the best
he's your
possible
president
person.
Too.
We don't have a president. We have a king. Wait.
It might be
so
that.
it's not that this isn't it's not that these are terrible people per se, but it's definitely it exposes a serious lack of mistrust and a lot of the disconnect, I think, between expertise and maybe there is a further class element to it, where you look at say lower class, and maybe they don't necessarily trust medical or establishments because, oh, I don't know, if you're a person of color, it's historically speaking, you've been poorly treated. Your ancestors have been used as guinea pigs against their will, and all of that. And I can empathize with that, because that really gives you no reason to trust that community. So I can understand. It's so frustrating, because you're like, no, we're trying to be better. It's just somebody else just keeps seeing that open wound and sticking their finger in and wiggling it around after we're trying to stitch it up, and they're pouring salt on, and it hurts, and
Yeah,
messy.
it can definitely be an issue. You think about the communities and societies, portions of our society that actually shame intelligence. One of the things I think about in high school and stuff like that is like the smart kids are looked at as like the nerds, the weirdos.
Mhm.
But you look at some societies and some places in our current human world that they actually prize the kids that are at the top of the grade levels, and they prize teachers and doctors and that kind of stuff. Our society it's got some topsy-turvy stuff going on there, but part of that is that seeing someone who is an educator of all the things, like what we used to have people. There used to be people that existed that were basically considered jack of all trades, that were educators and learners of all of the things. It's like people like Ben Franklin were people who had they were probably some of the I would say probably some of the last true American founding fathers who had like a general understanding of biology, chemistry, physics, like what I mean, like there were people that were considered to be experts in almost every area, and that kind of thing doesn't exist anymore because our information has gotten so specific. Like you said, one of the things they actually talk about, and some of the links that are included in the description, is that this woman is, one of the first thoughts that any scientist hears when they hear whatever PhD. What's the PhD in? How did you get it? Where did you get it? What is it about?
Is it from a Bible school?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. And so, like, because I interviewed Donald Prothero with my old show Heretical Minds, and we also talk with him all the time when at Atheist Analysis, and he's awesome dude. And when he puts his name on his books, he just writes Donald Prothero. He doesn't write PhD. And I asked him, I said, why don't you do that? And he says, because when I see people flaunting their PhD, I instantaneously distrust them. A lot of times you see people that are there, they will hold and they will use that as a way to mark themselves as an authority. And this Judy lady is obviously pushing that hard. You used to hear people, Dr. Phil is a good example, whatever, any of those areas where they put that social nomenclature, and they ride it hard, and they put it away nasty. And so this is a good example of, like, this woman is given way more credence than she could ever have in a specific PhD of her area of expertise. And then on top of that, it has been essentially compromised, removed. There are a series of reasons why she should not be an expert and used as a resource in any way, shape, or form. But this documentary does such a good job, such a clean job, making sure that she's given kind of credence right out of the gate. The first 15 minutes or so is just giving her a level of authority, so that the rest of the thing, when anything she says essentially can be considered an argument from authority, and so people will see her and trust her. And it's one of the things that if you see this and you have no idea about it, and you actually go read some of these articles, that seed has been planted so that you give her some kind of credence, some kind of like, well, there's probably a little bit more of the other people trying to assault her or something like that. Like, it's frustrating, because when I'm talking to my parents, like, they were like, wow, this lady, she's like a doctor, and like she got railroaded. And I was like, I mean, like, when you take that deep breath and you're like, it's going to take a long time to explain this. It was super fast for them to just plant a bunch of seeds really, really quickly, and most people aren't ready for that. What'd you call it? Gish Gallop?
Was the Gish Gallop? Yeah, yeah. It's named from Dwayne Gish, who used to debate pro creationism, and would just like spout out misinformation after misinformation. And as all thinking people know, the truth, in the time it takes for the truth to put on its shoes, a lie is made out halfway around the world. So all it takes is just a tiny little bit of misinformation to do a lot more damage, and that truth is going to take a long time to kind of undo that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's like one of the reasons
Oh,
why
yeah.
I spend way less time on Facebook than I used to. And Chris was saying basically he doesn't argue as much online. It's the same thing. Like it'll consume your life. Like if you can find a way, like everybody was trying to do to become a full-time activist. I remember there's so many people trying to do that. Like if you can find a way to become a full-time activist, then you basically you start making some money, and whatever, and then as time has gone on, we see people that were full-time activists for the non-believer cause, but their conservative roots and their Midwestern sensibilities started to pop up, and so we see the political dividing that naturally happens in that community, which I was surprised at, because I was like, really? The humanism thing doesn't seem to run as intensely as it does. So like, I would be curious. I haven't really seen a lot of it, but a lot of the people that are like, hey, this is interesting, from the old remnants of my atheist community, seeing this kind of stuff, because surprisingly, there's been some conspiracy and some non-skeptical, or at least non-logical thinking in some of those old communities, and so I find myself just deleting people more than I ever have. I don't know, it's just like it's a mental health thing to like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to create a bubble, but I also don't want to just like be depressed and bummed and angry every time I turn on the internet. So I find myself just spending less and less time on it, which maybe I'm getting
That's
old.
that's kind of the way you have to approach it. And as you said, it's great. It's a mental health thing for sure. Like, yeah, it's important that you don't surround yourself with people who are just, an army of yes men and will sit there and agree with everything you say, but to challenge yourself. But you also shouldn't shouldn't force yourself to be exposed to toxic points of view that just don't help you kind of further yourself and hone in your arguments. If people are just sitting there going, oh, look them darn lib turds, sorry, that's just somebody who's got to go, because they're not saying anything of value. If they're thoughtfully saying, well, this is a critique of how this person's behaving, then you can actually have a dialogue that's going to mean something and go somewhere. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not really doing it to try to change the other person's mind, but for any third party who's sitting there reading, because the other party, they've probably made up their mind and like you are probably not going to end up changing their stance, but somebody who maybe not quite as certain as in their opinions might look at that and be like, well, based off of the evidence, hopefully a more thoughtful person would say, look at that and go, oh, okay. But in the perfect world that we keep dreaming of.
Yeah, and I think one of the big takeaways, right, is that so Hannah, I get your point, and I'm the same way. I've detached from Facebook compared to what I used to. I limit myself to random posts here and there, and then like arguing once or twice with somebody. But for the most part, I don't. And when I do, it's in a once a day or twice a day engagement, and then I'm done. And I find myself spending more time on Reddit or reading articles, even if they are articles, to debunk this type of shit. So, but I think the other thing too is if you don't have that healthy opposition, you don't understand what it is. The problem I have is I probably have way too much unhealthy opposition versus healthy. And
I would say that you do. I would say that you do. I've seen some of the like it's like Chris is like posting a lot today, and then I'll just follow the thread. I'm like, oh
boy.
Yep, you'll see it, and so like I think there's, for example, there's a guy I worked with when I worked in Kalamazoo, and he was our IT guy, right? Great guy, very conservative person. Basically, but he's not the guy that says I vote for Trump because he believes in what Trump does. He's the guy that says I vote for Republicans because that's what I believe, and justifies Trump through that lens.
Mm-hmm.
Him and I've had some good discussions. 2 weeks ago, we had that conversation about essentially about Trump and the disinfectant thing, and him and I actually weirdly enough agreed, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is BS. We should stop attacking Trump. I mean, he's an idiot. We got it. There's no reason to continue this conversation. Like people, the leftists or the media were making more out of this than need to, because they need to sell things. and everybody's at home consuming. Therefore, hey, let's have them buy this crap. And that's
Well, we got your wish because they did stop pretty close to when we said stop. Like it just that story couldn't continue much longer. It had to die.
Yeah.
It was basically there wasn't a whole lot of substance there, but
yeah. And so the difference is somebody like that I've left on. I've left some of the other ones on too, but like I've got rid of a few people. There's a guy, I bet he doesn't even listen to the show anymore, but he loves to comment on our Facebook page. He's blocked. I blocked him. He shows up on our Facebook page only when I'm logged in as Cellar Door Skeptics. Other than that, he doesn't show up anymore. So like I'll get a notification and have to like switch to that account, right?
yeah.
Because I don't like that guy because he's crazy. And I don't think Andrew, I don't think he ever worked with us. I think he was just a fan of the show, but he's a middle of the road conservative, but he's so closed-minded to his ideology and he likes to attack. I got rid of him. And I think you have a point in saying, hey, we got to de-cleanse ourselves. But at the same time, we should actively seek out others that share a little bit different opposition.
So what
Maybe
I've been
just
looking
not in this crazy time, right? You know, maybe
Yeah.
it's not right now. Maybe
Yeah.
in 2 months when we're not all cooped up.
Yeah. Well, what I've been doing is I've been like talking with people. I mean, I'm surrounded by them now. I'm surrounded by people who are Republicans. I'm surrounded utterly. It's everywhere in Ohio. And so like I basically I've been having arguments essentially, or not arguments, but conversations and stuff. And I do it coming from a perspective that I am going to try to plant seeds and like kind of feel my way around and try to find like people's reasonings for where and why they are where they are. And the same kind of thing can be applied to the Spamdemic thing. So like the initial link in here, the Forbes link, the first thing that you showed was at is like, what should you do when someone shares this? Should you just, slam all over them? You're a stupid idiot, all that kind of stuff. You shouldn't do that. And there's a bunch of reasons for it. And the article does a way better job than I ever could explaining how and why these are things that you shouldn't do. And I mean, right out of the gate, we know that like if you attack someone, they're going to dig a ditch, they're going to hide in their trench, and it's going to get worse. And so first off, like we really do need to, kind of organize ourselves as far as our arguments and conversations and stuff. But you also need to be educated. Like you can't just simply say, and then that's dumb and then not give any reasoning for it. And so like having a kind of a strategy for dealing with people who share things like this Spamdemic thing, but also like other things like it. You need to kind of have that system or a strategy built up. And that's kind of what one of the reasons why I really, really like that Forbes article is that it kind of gives you a set of tools to use for this. But although also these tools can be kind of used for people in that, they're a conversational opposition as opposed to an adversarial opposition, which is a very different thing when you're fighting with someone on the internet and like you're just both yelling at each other, but there's nothing happening there. Like one person yells one thing, the other person yells the other thing. And so like this Spamdemic stuff brought a lot of that out all over the place. People were just like, slamming people and all that. And like the few places of the internet that I found that were enjoyable was like people that were having conversations with it. And then there's always people who I agree with and people that are still all over my internet. David Teachout is one of my favorites. The guy will not, he will not, old David, he will not slam or trash or bang into anyone or do anything aggressively, but he also will call out people in progressive circles. He'll call me out all the time. He's like, dude, are you sure and it's the best because he can just he's a voice of reason and calm. He's a rock in the storm. And like having people like that out there that'll just play a devil's advocate or just be reason, they're the best. And so like having these really awesome conversations, I suggest everyone seek out those kinds of people in these times. Like those are the best people to surround yourselves with. And then what I do to like, because I've been removing people, I don't want people to think I'm creating a bubble. I stay actively subscribed to the conspiracy subreddit. Because one, it's funny. I enjoy watching some of that stuff. It's so bad. It's
Ugh.
so bad. But
It is.
when you're skimming through and someone says that that Hillary Clinton is in charge of the Pizzagate and they also have a connection to Bill Gates because of this one thing that he did, and you're like, it's
Then you
just kind
start.
of, you
Then
know what I
it's
mean?
that
Like,
meme.
but you need to know, because like the things that'll show up in the conspiracy thing and in the 4chan, I refuse to go to 4chan or 8chan, but like in the conspiracy subreddits, if you go in there, you can actually catch things before they hit the mainstream Facebook virals. And so like I'll see it, I'll read some comments and some stuff about like, okay, these are some people that are like, even in the conspiracy group, they're like, yeah, no, that's pretty weird. And then I'll see it on Facebook all over the place, and then I can use the yeah, no, that's pretty weird comment with the information they post, and like kind of start debunking it like before there's like a Vox article that has all this really good information in it. So I don't know. It's like create a process, basically is what I'm saying. It's like with this pandemic thing, if you were blindsided by it, that should be a warning to that you kind of need to have a strategy to help people get over something that ridiculous.
Exactly.
Neat.
And that exactly that, and that's the idea here, right? You know, I mean, I think we could go into 100 hours of detail on debunking this whole thing. I have posted all of Hannah's comments as well as his links in the description. And maybe we can do a full on video debunk. I think originally we planned this segment to be like 15 minutes because we're like, do we really want to give this credibility?
I'm curious to see if I'm curious to see if it's all like hoopla. They're like, this is the first installment of a series, or if this is like the fig, and then everything else. This is going to be like, there's aliens planting seeds in our pizza. Like, if it's going to be just completely insane or not. Like this first one was like, wow, that was really good, and then it's just going to be like YouTube video editor the rest of the way out from here.
Yeah. And that's what I feel it is.
They spent all the money on the trailer, man. Damn it.
And it's weird to see which conspiracy theorists we know buy into it more than others. Like, it's kind of weird because I'll pick on Jeremiah Bannister. And if you're watching the show, bring it on, boy. He didn't buy into this, right? He's actually taken this whole COVID thing extremely seriously, but he believed in Pizzagate. You know, like he believed in all these other crazy things. And
I was really happy that my parents believed in like took it seriously right out of the gate for the COVID, because my father, like, he's not part of the it's not real, but like he's like, when the government tells him to do something, like, you should really do this, he's just like, no, just because of the you know, like, and so like I expected my parents to like resist it, and no, they were like, we're smokers, we don't have very good lungs, we're totally gonna hide from this. And I'm so happy that they chose that, because like I didn't have to have an argument about it, but like they're staying safe. Like, I still have parents, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I still, like, people like all the arguments you keep hearing about everybody with like the COVID stuff, and it's just like, we should open the economy. What, 1%? That's not that big of a deal. I don't know, if I lost 1% of my family, I'd be a pretty sad person. If I lost 1% of my immediate family, my extended family, like, I'd be a sad person. And it's like, I'm glad that the people that have done it, props. Like, I'm so happy that everybody's tried as best they can to be safe.
fair enough. Well, as we wrap the show up, we have our quick saves for the week. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go first. How about that? And then everybody else can get into theirs. You know, so like I said, originally my quick save was gonna be the Nazi thing that I decided was worth a little bit more conversation. So my new quick save is, what did we talk about at the beginning of the episode? The fact that I have to have all these Zoom meetings, people want to see my face. Star Wars has backgrounds you can use in your Zoom meetings to make it look like you're from anywhere else.
You can be in the Senate.
Yep. You can
I am the Senate.
You could sit on Palpatine's throne. You can
That
do all
sounds-
sorts of stuff.
That you might get some pushback from the CEO and the owner of your company if you put yourself on Palpatine's throne.
And just show up. Hey, here's my
I know you think you're in charge.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm the guy pulling strings behind. So they have Cloud City, they have Asteroid Field, Coruscant. I've used the Death Star, Control Room 1, and nobody said anything. But the ruins kind of like makes it even better. The only time anybody cared is when like I had a clown like overlay, and then they cared. Like all of a sudden it's like, Chris, why do you look like an evil clown? I was like, oh, at least you noticed,
That's
But
funny.
anyway, these are interesting. These are not the only ones. So like you can Google Star Trek and they have the same thing. Right?
But
Just
you
so
have to have
know.
like a clean one color wall behind you, right? Like you can't just have like chaos
Yeah.
behind you.
Yes, really, it depends on how good your camera is on your computer. But yes, really, you have to. It can help do things. I mean, my background that you can see right now.
It's got a lot of stuff going on. It wouldn't be effective. That's why they do like a green screen, like a single color.
Though, because of the white, right? Because of this white right
mostly.
here, the light screws it up, but the white behind it actually takes the majority of it. And it kind of works.
What are you trying to do it right now?
Okay. I was seeing if I could bring it up. I don't know if I saved any of the images. Honestly. Oh, yeah, I do. I do have one, I guess. And I don't see it show up, so.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where you have to start at like at the beginning or something like that with the initial setup, so.
Oh, I have the fade on. So there you go. So like it kind of works. See, like if I take my hat off, it's almost a little bit better. So it's not perfect. Some of them are, but like you can get it to work if you want, but a green screen obviously helps.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This one doesn't work quite as well because of that. But it's the brown that kills it. But if I rotate my camera or if I moved it more in front of me, maybe it would work. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting, and if you want to mess with your company a little bit, there you go.
Well, I know what I'm going to be doing.
There's a brick one. The brick one works really well. See? Now even my eyes show up as a brick.
I was just gonna say, those are some badass sunglasses, man.
I know. I'm
right. Well then.
Anyway, so I just, like I said, I thought it was interesting. It was one of those things where we kind of had a, before we had, this conversation where what do we do in our spare time to some extent. And I think that's kind of one of the things is I tried to figure out how to get these to work. So yeah, there you go.
Ooh, who's this person?
Keith, you're next.
I'm next. Okay, so what I've picked, so one of my last ones was I did the Down Dog app. It was for yoga and all around fitness. You do have to pay as of June 1st to be a member of it and use all of their features. So what I've included this time is I have found a free YouTube yoga. I don't know the technical term for it, I guess. Anyways, she's been putting out she's been putting out yoga videos for years now. I actually used a couple of hers when I was having when I had messed up my back and I couldn't really move for 3 days. So it's Yoga with Adrienne, yoga with Adrienne, because nobody says or spells Adrienne the same way twice apparently. She's pretty good in my experience. I've had a lot of success using her. She has a lower back one that I've used. So as a being into powerlifting, I've had a lot of back issues. Like I said, I had 3 days where I couldn't really move because I had messed up my back so bad, and following a couple of her videos really helped. Not that I'm saying that is something that you should do in place of, seeking proper medical treatment. I've dealt with back injuries.
Sure? You might be saying that. We were talking about conspiracy theories earlier.
I myself have gone through back injuries before. So it was nothing new to me. I knew kind of the basics of what to do and how to adjust my life and how to proceed on to, getting myself out of being injured. And a couple of her videos were really instrumental in terms of my recovery. So I just thought I would share some of that, and hopefully somebody else will get a chance to make the most of it.
That's pretty cool. It was one of the things I've seen. My wife actually likes doing yoga, and that's one of the things that she does for her personal like workouts and core strength and like back issues and stuff like that. It's just like if you have a good resource, it's actually really cool.
Fantastic.
And then if you also have like a good instructor, like even better if you can do like when humans used to meet in person. I'll close it out with the my Quicksave is a place I go when things are just kind of a bummer. You know, when you're just meh. I go to Happy Crying Dads subreddit on it's just the happiest place. Mostly it's fathers being given adoption papers, and after a 6-pack of something strong, it'll bring a tear to your eye. There's all kinds of really awesome videos. There's actually a thing that will make you cry, and not for the happy reason, but there was an admin who was on the show or on the Reddit, and he had I think it was I can't remember what cancer it was, but he had cancer, and like he was one of the most active people on this, and he was posting things, and like this story about basically, you know, he's got cancer, and like he wanted to make sure his daughter had money and everything, so like everybody donated a whole bunch of money to cover his family and everything. But like these are all videos of like people getting adoption photos, and like, or like fathers getting gifts so they can see they had like those glasses so you can see color, like colorblind people. And so like it's just like it's moments of emotion when some people are so thoroughly and uncontrollably overwhelmed with happiness that like it just breaks them. It's just like one of those things. It's like it's just sometimes, you know, like I have these moments every once in a while with my daughters where it's just like they smile and run off, and you know I'm just kind of like quietly crying in the background.
Tanner.
Just like I'm totally happy. And so like all of these things. So like this video here, this guy, he thought all of his family was killed in the Holocaust, and this is his brother's son who found him. And like it's just like it's a great, awesome place that like if the internet had more of that, it would be amazing.
That one. I thought you would appreciate that one, Tanner. That's the heavy metal dad.
Yeah, I do kind of. Yep.
Heavy metal dad.
Play the video. I should probably play the video, but
his son.
His son has cerebral palsy, and they've been to 1,200 metal shows because he found that his son responded positively to heavy metal music. So, heavy metal for life.
Yeah, definitely.
Coming to you live from the deck of the Star Destroyer.
Yeah, so like I mean, this is just a place I go when I just need to smile, and it's awesome. It's just the best.
That's some good eye bleach.
Yeah, it's a good place to go right before you go to bed. When you turn your phone off and you roll over in your bed and you're like, I'm gonna put my phone down. that's the end of my night. Happy Crying Dads is a good place to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, I think that's important, right? Because if we don't pay attention to these type of things, all it does is we're back into this shit world with shit things that happen, with shitty hair that I do wish I could shitty cut.
An amazingly growing facial hair.
An amazingly growing facial hair. Yeah, I don't think anybody's seen my hair without my hat on in like 2 months, because it doesn't grow very well up here, but it kind of does. You know, the sides are crazy. I've like had to shave the back piece because like it grows into my collar, and then like I have back hair right at the top shoulder blades. I just shaved that. It's all gone.
Oh, the Neanderthal neck.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's weird. You know, like, and I think my sister shaved it. Like,
I don't
I've never
understand
noticed
that
it before. But when I get my hair cut, my sister there and my one friend does my hair all the time. And so, like, I think they just do it naturally, or maybe it's just never grown like this before because I don't have to wear collared t-shirts. So, like, they're not, like, rubbing on the back part of my neck like they usually do. mean, I haven't put a collared shirt on in 2 months. So, like, it's like Chris goes to work and, you know, wears Game of Thrones shirts and PJ shorts. And if I shower before 10 a.m., it's a miracle.
Welcome to the New World, everyone. This is the New World Order, the NWA.
Well, you know, the funny thing is they were talking about people going back to work, right? And when people can go back to work, and like, so my company's coming up with this plan. I told my boss, I was like, tell me why I should have to drive a half hour every day, get up and shower.
There are so many people, that are like, why do I have to come to work if I did everything effectively at home? I can come in twice a week or whatever. Like, this is a major thing that's going to happen in our economy.
And I'm excited for it, I guess. That's the best way to put it. I'm kind of excited. Not that I like working at home, because I'll be honest with you, that I like that human interaction, and it's weird. Like, my kids are on their iPads, they're there, or they're doing homework, and then I have my dogs. And my dogs want constant attention, which is annoying. But other than that, it is. When you got to actually do work. You got to do work. At some point, you have to do work or you don't get paid. Like, it's not going to get paid.
Yes.
You know? But either which way, at some point, I like that interaction a little bit. But I'll be honest, if I can work 3 days a week from home, I'm all for it. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another amazing show for you. Thanks, and have an awesome fucking night.